Sunday. Being recorded Saturday, though. All right. This one is HAARP, Chemtrails, and hopefully I can stick to those two topics because they're really not related even. HAARP, that old one about the big radar sets going to overtake the world and mind control and whatever else you've heard about HAARP. Now, oddly, if you go out and search for HAARP, you can find projects that have that is an acronym. So HAARP is something that's still around. You can go chase out a few flavors or traits of it. But the original HAARP project was America's first try of over-the-horizon radar. So they were trying to see the airspace over Russia using atmospheric lensing, reflectivity, and a few other things going on, and radar waves to be able to see them and discern something coming over the horizon. So that absolutely was HAARP. That project is part of the DO line, which was begun before Alaska was a state, which is where I was born because both my parents happened to work on aspects of military bases up in Alaska. So all we heard of it was jokes about snow. I was too young to remember any of it. But so there's a little tie there. There are some photos of interesting things in my dad's books and some interesting notes in his military papers where he was stationed and where he went through. But he was in transportation, moving goods from America up into Canada secretly and through to different parts of the Alaska area, basically getting trucks to and from transportation. So a little bit of a tie there. Somewhere my dad might have signed a paper that got the roof to a radar dome delivered. I don't know. But there was more to what was going on up there than that. So this little piece of history, a little reason why I might try to figure out radar sets and relationships. So that HAARP project was a huge, massive power output of microwaves, and then you're looking for the signal going out and bending and twisting and coming back and trying to discern something from that. So there's a lot more to that type of phased array radar, but so basically it was up there. It was there. It did exist. It was a project, and it eventually got shut down. They've tried to use it for other things, but that physical facility that I know is not doing what it was originally put there to do, if it still exists. There's photos of the big HAARP antennas. There's photos near Chernobyl of another HAARP antenna built by Russia. Same thing, over the horizon radar. They're trying to see as far as they can, and that was how we did it back in the day. Huge antenna structures, just massive antenna structures. Doing the same thing, just doing it better, doing it smaller, doing it quicker, faster, lighter. So, yes, those radar sets existed. They had massive amounts of power out, but in the scheme of power and the universe and the sun and the earth, they were negligible. So, on the other side of that, radar does have power. Those frequencies interact with molecules. They bounce off of most of them, or they get absorbed as energy, and it's harmless. But if you get enough of it, if you get close enough, you can get cancer, period. That's part of the training. Nasty pictures that go along with it. So you don't get in front of the wave horn, the output antenna of a radar set. If you work in the radar set, you make sure that the waveguides and all the tubes in and out of the system are bolted together. The flanges are good. The seals have been wiped within whatever the specs are. And you don't play with the waveguide that guides that huge peak of energy out of the trailer and up into the antenna. So I did say there's a huge amount of power that comes out of that. If you go out in front of that antenna and throw a ball of steel wool up in front of it, it will burst into flames. If you go up in front of that antenna and stand there, it will cook you like a microwave oven would. And it would almost definitely guarantee you were going to get some type of cancers, because it's that high dose of ionizing energy to your body that it would either kill you or it could potentially, stochastically, give you a really good chance of getting cancers. So that's radar. The schools I went to, these were Marine Corps schools, the original schools. Now they train radar repairs, and they also train radar operators. So there was an operating van at the site, or a few of them, and then there was, training schools with equipment inside. So those schools were originally out in San Diego, California, at the Marine Corps base. But as the city and the town got more populated around the base, people noticed that it was turning the fluorescent lights on as it swept by. So that's radar. Radar can do that. It is ionizing energy that can make fluorescent tubes fluoresce. And you could actually see the city light up in the distance if you were not paying attention to some of the rules, maybe. So I wasn't there. That's all just a fact of why they move that training, that radar systems training up into another site up in the desert. So yes, radar can do these dangerous, nasty things, and that's why there's domes. They're up on towers. They're out of sight, out of mind. The little handheld police radars, you don't put your hand in front of those, but it would take a long time to do something to you. So radar, it works. That we know. So HAARP is kind of bullshit. The people that are talking, screaming, worried, concerned about HAARP just don't understand enough to know the facility itself is a relic. But you can go with 1As or 2s, you can go find some HAARPs around. So yeah. As to the chemtrails, those are vapor trails. They are atmospheric vapor trails caused by the planes and some of the new wing configurations that they have that force those vortices at the tips that cause the ice crystallizations to happen. Very rarely do you see any of those coming from the engines, so it's not exhaust smoke. And let's face it, the plane doesn't have room for extra tons of stuff on it. It just doesn't work that way. The second piece of that is the amount of traffic in the air has increased. It's not a linear increase. And it goes in fits and spurts, but listen to the sales numbers. The old aircraft, they're 30, 40 years old. They need to be replaced, but they're just adding on to fleets, and a lot's getting replaced. So lots more flights up there. To me, the biggest pollution to worry about is the jet fuel. That is a carbon source. We aren't going to invent electric planes in too soon of the future, if we ever do, that can carry, enough passengers to make them worthwhile. We'll see. Future's out there, but so that's what you're seeing in the air. Are there tests done Is there science done? Have corporations done things to see if they can affect the environment? You escape, you're forgetting human nature. It is almost, you know, if it's there, someone's gonna go climb it. So a lot of these things have been done, and it does come back to it shouldn't be done in secret. It should be talked about. If you talk about it too much, people are going to say no anyway. So how do you reconcile that and make it into a logical decision versus... So that's this one. I'm at 10 minutes right now. So chill it with the chemtrails and the HAARP crap. We do have to have radar as long as we have planes. You aren't going to turn that stuff off. It's ubiquitous. It is the new normal. And what I think is we need more rail for interstate and intercommunity travel. But that's just me. Peace out.